Have you ever wondered how to find peace in a world full of chaos? Meet Vidura, a sage whose wisdom turned darkness into light, and Anuja, the quiet force who held hope alive. Their story reveals a timeless secret of Buddhism, a path to transform suffering into awakening. Curious? Stay with us, hit that subscribe button, and discover how their journey can inspire yours. The light beneath the banyan. In the quiet rustle of leaves beneath an ancient banyan tree, where the winds whispered secrets older than time itself, a man stood alone, his eyes tracing the horizon where the sun kissed the earth. His name was Vidura, a sage whose heart pulsed with the rhythm of wisdom, whose words could calm a storm or stir a soul to awaken. Imagine, for a moment, a world where every choice you make ripples through lifetimes, where every act of courage or kindness shapes not just your destiny, but the cosmos itself. This is the story of Vidura, a tale not of gods or kings alone, but of a man who walked the path of truth amidst chaos, and of Anuja, the woman whose silent strength held the world steady behind him. Will you pause to listen? For in this tale lies a truth that might just shift the way you see your own journey. Long ago, in the golden city of Indapata, where spires gleamed like the aspirations of its people, Vidura served as the trusted advisor to King Dhananjaya. His mind was a treasury of insight, his words a bridge between the king's ambitions and the people's hopes. But Vidura was no ordinary counselor. He saw beyond the fleeting desires of the court, beyond the glitter of gold or the weight of power. He saw the threads of karma weaving through every heart, every deed, every whispered doubt. To him, life was a tapestry, and each choice a stitch that could either bind or unravel it. One evening, as the city glowed under a twilight sky, Vidura stood before the king, his voice steady yet urgent. "Great king," he said, "true wealth lies not in conquest or coin, but in the heart that seeks harmony with all beings." The courtiers murmured, some in awe, others in unease, for Vidura's words often stirred the soul in ways that unsettled the comfortable. But what is wisdom without trial? As the stars began to pierce the velvet night, a shadow crept into Indapata, not of man, but of a yaksha, a spirit born of ancient hungers. This creature, named Kola, was no mere phantom. His eyes burned with envy for Vidura's clarity. His claws itched to tear apart the sage's serenity. Kala had heard tales of Vidura's wisdom, how it could unravel even the tightest knots of fate. If I could claim such a mind, Kala thought, I would bend the world to my will. And so, under the guise of a wandering monk, Kala entered the city, his form cloaked in illusion, his heart a storm of ambition. The air grew heavy as he approached the palace, and the guards, unaware, let him pass. Vidura, sensing a ripple in the harmony of the night, paused in his meditation. His heart whispered a warning, but his resolve remained unshaken. For what is a sage, if not one who faces darkness with a light that never dims? Now, let us turn to Anuja, Vidura's wife, whose presence was like the steady glow of a lamp in a storm. Anuja was no mere shadow to her husband's brilliance. She was his anchor, his mirror, reflecting his virtues while grounding his spirit in the quiet strength of their shared life. In their modest home, far from the palace's grandeur, Anuja wove tapestries not of thread, but of love and trust. She listened to Vidura's late-night musings, her eyes bright with understanding, offering words that steadied him when the weight of the kingdom pressed too heavily. "Vidura," she would say, her voice soft yet firm, "the world may sway, but our hearts need not." On this fateful night, as Kala's shadow loomed, Anuja felt a tremor in her soul. She lit a single oil lamp, its flame unwavering, and whispered a prayer to the Buddhas of all ages, not for safety, but for clarity, for herself, for Vidura, for the path they walked together. The Yaksha's plan unfolded swiftly. At the palace, Kala, still disguised, requested an audience with Vidura. "Wise one," he said, his voice dripping with false reverence, "I seek your counsel to resolve a dispute in my village." Vidura, ever compassionate, agreed to meet the stranger at dawn by the riverbank, where the waters mirrored the sky's first light. But Kala had no intention of discourse. As Vidura arrived, the Yaksha shed his disguise, revealing a form both terrible and mesmerizing. Eyes like embers, limbs like twisted vines. Before Vidura could speak, Kala's power ensnared him, binding his body in ethereal chains. "Your wisdom is mine now," Kala hissed, spiriting Vidura away to a hidden cave deep in the forest, where no mortal could follow. The city awoke to find its sage gone, the palace hushed in fear, and King Dhananjaya's heart heavy with loss. Yet Anuja, standing by the same lamp she had lit the night before, felt not despair, but a quiet resolve. She knew Vidura's spirit could not be caged, just as she knew her role was to hold the light until he returned. What makes a man like Vidura unbreakable? It was not his knowledge alone, vast as it was, nor his eloquence, though it swayed hearts. It was his unwavering commitment to the Dharma, the truth that flows through all things, binding us to compassion, to wisdom, to the courage to face suffering without flinching. In that dark cave, bound by Kala's chains, Vidura sat in meditation, his breath steady, his mind a still lake reflecting the stars. Kala demanded answers, secrets, power. "Tell me," the Yaksha growled, "how to master the minds of men." But Vidura's response was a gentle smile, his words a soft challenge. "True mastery lies not in control, but in release. Let go of your hunger, and you will see." Kala's fury roared, shaking the cave, but Vidura's calm held firm, a beacon in the storm. Back in Indapada, Anuja rallied the people, not with grand speeches but with quiet acts, sharing food, offering comfort, keeping the city's heart alive. Her faith in Vidura was a fire no shadow could extinguish. And here, dear listener, pause for a moment. This story is not just of Vidura and Anuja, but of you, of the light you carry, the trials you face, the choices that define your path. If this tale stirs something in your heart, if it sparks a desire to walk the path of wisdom and compassion, consider sharing it with others. Subscribe to this journey, share this video, and if you feel moved, offer a super thanks to keep these stories alive. For in sharing, we weave a tapestry of connection, a reminder that no one walks alone. As the days passed, the city's hope began to waver, but Anuja's did not. She visited the banyan tree where Vidura once taught, sitting in its shade, listening to the wind as if it carried his voice. She spoke to the people, not of loss, but of trust. "Vidura has faced darkness before," she said, "and he has always returned with light." Her words were not mere comfort. They were a call to remember the teachings Vidura lived by, that suffering is not the end, but a doorway to understanding. Meanwhile, in the cave, Vidura's dialogue with Kala grew deeper. The Yaksha, frustrated by Vidura's calm, began to listen, to question. "Why do you not fear me?" Kala asked. Vidura's reply was simple yet profound. "Fear arises from clinging. I cling to nothing, so I fear nothing." These words, like seeds, planted themselves in Kala's restless heart, stirring something he could not yet name. The story does not end here, nor does the path of wisdom pause. Vidura's trial, Anuja's steadfastness, and even Kala's hunger are but threads in a greater weave. Will Vidura's words pierce the Yaksha's darkness? Will Anuja's quiet strength hold the city together? And what of you, dear listener? How will you meet the shadows in your own life? Stay Stay with me, for the journey continues, and the truths we uncover together may light the way not just for Vidura, but for us all. The cave of unseen truths. The forest hummed with secrets, its shadows dancing under a moon that seemed to hold its breath. In the heart of the cave, where Vidura sat bound by ethereal chains, the air crackled with the tension of a mind unshaken, facing a heart consumed by hunger. Kala, the yaksha, paced like a storm trapped in flesh, his ember-like eyes fixed on Vidura, whose calm seemed to mock his fury. Imagine a moment where the world tests your deepest truth, where darkness demands your surrender, yet your spirit refuses to bend. This is where Vidura stood, not as a captive, but as a beacon, his wisdom a flame that no chain could dim. And in Indapata, Anuja, like the steady pulse of a river, carried the city's hope, her quiet acts weaving a net of courage around a people on the brink of despair. Will you stay with their story? For within it lies a mirror, reflecting the strength you might find in your own heart when shadows fall. Kala's voice echoed in the cave, sharp as a blade. You speak of release, sage, but what of power? What of bending fate to one's will? Vidura's eyes, soft yet piercing, met the yaksha's gaze. Power, he said, is a shadow that fades with the light of understanding. To bend fate is to bind yourself to suffering. True freedom lies in seeing things as they are. His words, like drops of water on stone, wore at Kala's resolve, though the yaksha scoffed, his laughter a hollow mask for the unease stirring within. Vidura did not press, did not argue. He simply sat, his breath a rhythm of peace, his presence an invitation to question. Outside, the forest seemed to listen, its creatures silent, as if the cosmos itself leaned in to hear what would unfold. For what is a confrontation if not a chance for transformation? A moment where even the darkest heart might glimpse the light. In Indapata, the city stirred with whispers of Vidura's absence. The palace, once vibrant with his counsel, felt like a body without its heart. King Dhananjaya, torn between fear and duty, summoned his advisors, but their words were mere echoes, lacking the clarity Vidura brought. Anuja, however, did not wait for decrees. She walked among the people, her presence a quiet force. At the market, she shared rice with a grieving mother. At the temple, she lit incense for the city's peace. Vidura taught us, she told a gathering crowd, that suffering is not our master but our teacher. Let us learn from this moment, not by fearing loss, but by living the truth he shared. Her words, simple yet profound, rekindled hope, like embers coaxed into flame. The people began to act. Merchants shared their wares, children sang songs of courage, and the city, though shadowed, refused to break. Anuja's strength was not in commanding, but in reminding. The Dharma endures, even when its bearers seem lost, yet the cave held its own drama, one that pulsed with the weight of lifetimes. Kala, growing restless, conjured visions to tempt Vidura. Images of wealth, of kingdoms bowing at his feet, of a life free from the burdens of duty. Take this, Kala urged, and be free of your chains. But Vidura's smile was unwavering. These gifts are illusions, born of craving, he said. True freedom is not in having, but in being. He spoke of the four noble truths, of suffering's root in attachment, of the path to liberation through letting go. Kala, unaccustomed to such clarity, felt his anger waver, replaced by a strange curiosity. What is this path you speak of? He asked, his voice softer, almost vulnerable. Vidura's response was a story. A tale of a wanderer who, lost in a desert, found water not by digging deeper, but by seeing the oasis that was always there. The yaksha listened, his heart a battleground of hunger and wonder, as Vidura's words planted seeds in soil long barren. Back in the city, Anuja faced her own trial. A group of courtiers, fearing the king's growing despair, urged her to flee Untitled, to seek safety in distant lands. Without Vidura, they said, the city will fall to chaos. Anuja stood beneath the banyan tree, its branches a canopy of memories, and shook her head. To flee is to abandon the truth Vidura lives for. I stay not for him alone, but for what we all can become. Her resolve silenced their doubts, and the courtiers, moved by her faith, pledged to stand with her. She organized a gathering at dawn where the people would meditate together, their minds joined in a shared wish for Vidura's return. As the first light touched the city, hundreds sat in silence, their breaths a chorus of hope, their hearts aligned with the Dharma's timeless pulse. Anuja, at the center, felt Vidura's presence, as if his wisdom flowed through her, binding them across the distance. And here, dear listener, let us pause to reflect. Vidura's calm, Anuja's courage, Kala's stirring heart. They are not just characters in a tale, but echoes of your own journey. The shadows you face, the choices you make, the quiet strength you summon, they are part of the same path. If this story moves you, if it kindles a spark of insight, share it with others. Subscribe to this channel, spread this video, and if you feel called, offer a super thanks to keep these teachings alive. For in sharing, we build a bridge of compassion, connecting hearts across time and space. The cave, the city, the forest, all were threads in a tapestry still weaving. Kala's questions grew deeper, his demands softer, as Vidura's words began to unravel the knots of his ancient hunger. In Untitled, Anuja's gatherings grew, the people finding strength not in answers but in unity, in the practice of mindfulness that Vidura had taught. Yet the Yaksha's cave was far from resolved, and a greater test loomed. Would Vidura's wisdom free him, or would Kala's hunger consume them both? And what of Anuja? Could her quiet faith hold the city until the light returned? The answers lie ahead, in a moment where truth and compassion meet, where the heart of the Dharma shines brightest. Stay with me, for the path is not yet complete, and the lessons it holds may guide us all. The dawn of boundless awakening. The dawn broke over Untitled like a soft promise, its light threading through the banyan tree's leaves, where Anuja knelt in meditation, her heart a vessel of unwavering faith. In the distant cave, where shadows clung to stone, Vidura faced Kala, the Yaksha, whose hunger had begun to crack under the weight of wisdom's gentle touch. Picture a moment where the world holds its breath, where a single choice can shift the tides of fate, not just for one, but for all. This is the crossroads where Vidura stood, his compassion a bridge across the chasm of Kala's longing, and where Anuja's silent strength wove the city into a tapestry of hope. Their story is not merely a tale of triumph, but a mirror, reflecting the power of your own heart to transform suffering into light. Will you walk with me to its end? For in these final steps lies a truth that might guide you through your darkest nights. In the cave, Kala's voice trembled, no longer a storm, but a whisper. Your words, sage, stir something I cannot name, he said, his ember eyes dimming with doubt. Vidura, still bound, spoke with a warmth that seemed to fill the darkness. That stirring is the seed of awakening, Kala. It asks only that you listen, not to me, but to the truth within you. He shared a teaching from the Buddha's path, the Noble Eightfold Path, a way of living that aligns heart, mind, and action with the flow of reality. Right view, right intention, Vidura said. These are not chains, but wings. Kala, for the first time, sat still, his claws unclenched, his heart a battlefield where hunger fought a nascent spark of understanding. Vidura did not demand change. He offered a choice, a question. What do you seek, Kala? Power that fades, or peace that endures? The cave, once a prison, felt like a sanctuary, its silence alive with possibility. In Indapata, Anuja's dawn gatherings had grown into a movement of the heart. The people, once gripped by fear, now sat together under the banyan tree, their breaths synchronized in mindfulness. Their minds joined in a shared aspiration for Vidura's return. Anuja led them not with authority but with presence, her voice steady as she spoke of impermanence. All things pass, she said, but the Dharma remains, a light we carry within. Her words echoed Vidura's teachings, and the city began to heal, not by clinging to hope, but by living it. Merchants reopened stalls, children laughed again, and even King Dhananjaya, moved by Anuja's resolve, joined the gatherings. His crown set aside as he sat among his people. Anuja's lamp, lit that first night, still burned in their home, its flame a symbol of the truth that no darkness could extinguish. Yet she felt a stirring, a sense that Vidura's trial was reaching its peak, and her prayers deepened, not for his safety, but for the awakening of all involved. Back in the cave, Kala's heart wavered. Vidura's stories of wanderers, of deserts, of oases, had woven a spell, not of magic, but of clarity. The Yaksha saw, for the first time, the weight of his craving, how it had bound him tighter than any chain he'd placed on Vidura. If I release you, Kala asked, what becomes of me? Vidura's smile was a sunrise. You become free, not by my release, but by your own. He spoke of compassion, of how even a Yaksha's heart could turn toward the good. Kala, trembling, reached for the ethereal chains, his claws hesitating. In that moment he saw not Vidura but himself. Centuries of hunger, of loneliness, of chasing shadows. With a cry that shook the cave, he shattered the chains, not out of defeat, but surrendered to a truth he could no longer deny. Vidura rose, unharmed, his gaze filled with gratitude. You have not freed me, Kala, he said. You have begun to free yourself. The forest seemed to exhale as Vidura stepped into the light. Kala at his side, no longer a captor but a seeker, his eyes soft with a newfound humility. They walked toward Indapata, the Yaksha silent, absorbing Vidura's teachings like parched earth drinking rain. In the city, the people felt a shift, as if the air itself carried joy. Anuja, meditating beneath the banyan, opened her eyes, a smile breaking across her face. She stood, and the crowd followed, their hearts sensing what their eyes had not yet seen. As Vidura entered the city gates, with Kala beside him, the people gasped, then cheered, not for victory, but for the miracle of transformation. Anuja ran to Vidura, their embrace a silent vow, their eyes speaking what words could not. Kala knelt before the king, offering amends, and Dhananjaya, guided by Vidura's counsel, welcomed him, not as a foe, but as one seeking redemption. And here, dear listener, we stand at the heart of the tale. Vidura's wisdom, Anuja's faith, Kala's awakening, they remind us that no darkness is final, no heart beyond reach. Your own journey, with its trials and triumphs, is part of this same path. If this story has touched you, if it calls you to live with greater compassion, share it with the world. Subscribe to this channel, share this video, and if your heart moves you, offer a super thanks to keep these stories flowing. For in sharing, we light lamps for each other, guiding one another home. The city of Indapata flourished, not with gold, but with understanding. Vidura taught anew, his words now enriched by his trial, while Anuja's quiet strength became a legend in its own right. Kala, no longer a Yaksha of hunger, stayed to learn, his presence a testament to the Dharma's power. Together they showed that wisdom is not in escaping suffering, but in meeting it with a heart open to change. And you, dear friend, what will you carry from this tale? Perhaps a resolve to face your shadows with courage, to support those who walk beside you, to choose compassion over craving. The path is yours, and it begins now, with a single step toward the light within.